as the ANC's highest decision-making body will sit for the 3 days from the 1st of August, political analysts say that the ANC's NEC should reflect on the party's recent electoral outcomes as well as come up with a strategy to revive and strengthen the party's structures moving forward. The NEC will be followed by the ANC's Lekgotla from the 4th to the 6th of August. Well, let's unpack this further. We're now joined by political analyst Dr. Kuhle Zwakala. Dr. Zwakala, thank you so much for your time. I mean, this is the first NEC meeting and a critical one for that matter after the appointment of the GNU and the implementation thereof. And of course, the expulsion of the party's former president, Jacob Zuma. I mean, one would imagine there is a lot for the party to unpack. Just talk to us about what are the critical things that should be top of that list.
Yeah, afternoon, colleagues, yourselves and your viewers. No, certainly, I think the current matter is the suspension of former President Jacob Zuma. That will certainly be a topical issue in the upcoming NEC and how the matter has been dealt with and how it will certainly be dealt with going forward should the former president appeal. We know now that he's got 21 days or a little less to appeal that decision. So I think that's a current matter. But I think the most burning issue, obviously, will be the appalling performance of the ANC in the national elections. I think certainly there's a lot of reflections to be made in that regard.
And I mean, one would also imagine this will probably an opportune time, you know, just given what you've just alluded to, for the party itself to self-reflect, particularly as it speaks to the leadership of the party and just some of the structural issues that came out, you know, from that result of the election.
Yeah, look, I think it's no one would have anticipated that the liberation movement would shed just under 14% of the vote. So I think I strongly believe that if there was any point for the ANC to actually revisit and actually implement the renewal project, now would be the perfect time. Look, they've lost hegemony. Look, the ANC still has the presidency, the ANC presidency under the GNU, as it were. However, I think they've lost hegemony. And I think if there's any stage for the ANC to galvanize, to reunite and to renew, this now would be a good opportunity. And I think it would be very perilous of opposition parties to think that the liberation movement is gone. I think that they will really regroup and learn from the lessons in the recent dismal election outcome.
And when you look at the GNU, and of course, as the ANC, one would imagine they would be unpacking this, particularly how they are viewed. I mean, their alliance partners have had a lot to say in as far as, you know, how they view this GNU and the ANC's position and how the Democratic Alliance has come out very strongly, particularly in the beginning stages of the formation of this GNU. What would the sticking points be, you know, during this particular time as they continue to discuss their role in the GNU?
Yeah, certainly the GNU composition is a contentious issue, but I don't think the ANC has done something new, certainly not. Obviously, they'll have to heed advice from alliance partners and whatnot. But look, the ANC in recent decades has never really been this leftist movement that people wish it was. So the ANC has really maintained its ideology, even in its composition of the GNU. Look, the ANC has never been really outright leftist radicals, and what they've done, they've maintained who they are from an ideology and an identity point of view. It's quite pleasing to see that they didn't really fall for this blackmail to say, no, you can't then be in alliance or coalition as GNU, whatever you call it, with black majority leftist radicals. I think we would really regress, really, if we were to galvanize along those lines. So the ANC, they simply maintained who they are. They've always described themselves as a broad church, a non-racial and non-sexist organization. And I don't think post-election, pre-GNU composition, they would then preferred a certain alliances based on race, based on and all those things. So I think they've maintained who they are, and that's how the GNU has been composed. There's definitely ideological contradictions and within the GNU, but I think all parties involved, what they've simply done is just to put South Africa first in the absence of an outright majority.
And I would imagine those, differences in terms of ideology will also be threshed out and discussed in the Lekgotla. So the NEC essentially taking 3 days, the Lekgotla then follows after. I mean, what are some of the programs, we are likely to see? I mean, in previous sense, they would, of course, discuss the policy program for the ANC in government. In light of this, they've always been talking and maintaining about 6 priorities, given the party's manifesto and the decisions that were taken by the NEC. What are we likely to see here being discussed and being prioritized? Just seeing that the makeup of this Lekgotla will include those ministers and those cabinet representatives in this GNU.
I suppose what then needs to be balanced, I think, within the ANC and other parties involved in the GNU, is to ensure and to really get clarity. How do they implement party policies in governance office? I don't think, even if we're in a genuine situation, coalition, or whatever it is, I don't think political parties would really now compromise their positions, their policy implementation, their national decisions, and so to speak. So a give and take there, conceding there, compromising there, but certainly the ANC has got an agenda of transforming society, as they call it, so do the other parties. So they'll have to revisit a couple of things, but most importantly, they'll have to revisit how do they deal with the matter of splinter parties. Look, the parties that have left the ANC in recent years, they've not necessarily left the ANC to join current opposition parties in the various stages of the elections, but they've just left the ANC to form other parties. So I think that's a discussion that the ANC should have, that how is it that so many, starting from COPE, EFF, now the MK party, these are all ANC people that then come and take away from the original ANC voter. So I think it's a discussion worth having. And how do they deal with it? How do they avoid splinter parties? And how do they move forward in instances where splinter parties such as the MK party that have directly taken away from the ANC vote? So I think, amongst other things, a policy in terms of how to deal with such. The issue of Jacob Zuma, it's still going through a disciplinary process. The man has left the party, has contested the party, and yet this is one long process that is an opportunity for appeal, so on and so forth. So I think going forward, the ANC would have learned, and perhaps policy shifts then there to ensure that they do better in the next election.